Hey guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha and I truly feel so blessed to be a professional Vedic astrologer. Today we're going to do a very interesting and powerful chart analysis. We're going to look into the Vedic astrological chart of Audrey Hepburn. So if you guys are anything like me, I had such a love for her when I was younger. I had breakfast at Tiffany's posters. I just thought she was so classy and such a good vibe. I thought it'd be really interesting to look into the power of the arts and the creative aspect of her Vedic astrology chart. And I actually knew that she was going to have a strong third house. When you're doing astrology, you start realizing that you can pretty much intuit placements that someone's going to have. So I was like, okay, Audrey has to have a powerful third house because she was a performer, she was an artist, she was dancing, she was singing, she was expressive, and she had so much energy to give into her performances and into her creativity. She had a lot of drive and willpower to overcome this sort of wild upbringing that she also experienced. So we're going to get into the analysis of Audrey Hepburn, the famous, iconic movie star from back in the day, who I'm sure many of you out there had such a love for as well. All right, so we're going to get into the chart analysis, and I'm going to pull it up in the next screen. All right, so here we have Audrey's Vedic astrological charts pulled up, and yes, it's an interesting one. All right, so this is something that is going to show us the accuracy of astrology and how important it is to analyze aspects onto houses. Because, okay, Audrey was a celebrity, she was uber famous, she was very successful, she was beautiful, she was stunning, charming, all the things, right? So we might naturally intuit that she has a really strong first house. We go to her first house, yes, we get a benefic, we get the moon on the ascendant. However, this is where aspects are so important in Vedic astrology, guys. If you don't know aspects and you're not understanding how planets are aspecting houses, you shouldn't even do Vedic astrology, to be quite honest. Everything is the aspects onto houses, okay? So we get moon in the first house. Moon on the lagna or the ascendant means she's sensitive to what's going on in the world around her. She was very interested in activism, animal rights. She had this sensitivity about her because that's the moon right there on the lagna or the ascendant. It's giving this like extreme sensitivity, compassion. You know, moon, if we think about the moon, it's the subconscious, it's the emotions. So it's a more sensitive, intuitive sort of energy. It's going right there on the ascendant, okay? However, even though that's one benefic, we actually get 3 malefics aspecting the ascendant, which is pretty negatively aspecting her confidence, okay? So even though we might naturally think Audrey Hepburn was so confident because she was so successful in all these things, if you start researching about her life story, she was actually very insecure. And you can find all these articles, all this information about her insecurities, about her, insecurities about her acting abilities and her looks and her beauty and body and all these sort of things. And that is going to be 3 malefics actually aspecting her ascendant. Okay, so that's why it's really important to understand aspects onto houses. All right, so we get Mars right here in the 6th house, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mars creates aspects to houses that are 4 and 8 signs over. So we get Mars aspecting her ascendant. That's 1 malefic, okay? Saturn is here in the 11th house. Saturn's special aspects are 3 houses and 10 houses over. Saturn is now hitting that ascendant, which is already the main aspect in Vedic astrology that gives issues around confidence and self-worth. Saturn is restrictive. It's going right onto the ascendant, which is causing issues around the body, the self-worth, the self-esteem, right? Saturn on the ascendant is a classic aspect where someone constantly struggles with insecurities and confidence in this lifetime. We get Mars onto the ascendant. Now we get Saturn onto the ascendant. Saturn restricts, so it's going onto the ascendant, and she was very thin, right? She had a very thin sort of frame. Saturn is restrictive. It's going right onto the ascendant, restricting that lagna or ascendant as well too, okay? Now, Ketu is in the 9th house. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we get Ketu onto the ascendant. Isn't that interesting? So we get 3 malefics aspecting the first house. This first house is really negatively aspected. Does it mean that she's not able to have success or fame? No. But does it show that she's going to have a lifelong theme of insecurities around her looks, around her energy, around her body, around her confidence? Yes, best believe it. She was very introspective. She was very shy. She was very insecure. She said she was insecure about her acting. She would sometimes beg for retakes during filming. She was insecure about her looks and her body. She also had this ongoing sort of insecurity about this father abandonment wound, which is Ketu in the 9th house. Quite literally, we'll get into that in a little bit. But this is how we're analyzing houses in astrology. I want to emphasize, if you're not looking at aspects on houses, don't even do astrology. That's how strongly I feel about that, because this is how we're getting accurate information onto someone's houses, okay? It's really important. If we're getting 3 malefics onto someone's first house, that person is going to have insecurities, they're going to have self-worth issues, they're going to have confidence issues. Best believe it, okay? Now, Ketu onto the ascendant is already giving this energy of introspection. Someone is more shy. Someone is more withdrawn in their energy. So Ketu is aspecting the first house. Again, Ketu is like this energy of the void. When it goes onto the ascendant, someone can hide away a little bit. They're smaller in their appearance. Rahu on the ascendant gives people this energy where they're very tall. I know that sounds so specific, trust me, especially if someone has like a strong Rahu on their ascendant. They're tall, they're larger than life, there's so much energy active in their first house. Ketu onto the ascendant, aspecting or right there on the first house, someone's smaller in their energy, they're more withdrawn, they're more introspective, they're shy, they're insecure. They can have confidence issues, right? That's that Ketu aspect onto the first house. It's also onto the moon as well. Okay. So, 3 malefics hitting the ascendant. Yes, we get the moon in the first house, but that first house is pretty afflicted. Now, first house is Aquarius, which means it gets ruled by Saturn. So her first house lord is actually retrograde. First house lord, Saturn's in the 11th, it's retrograde. I was curious if she had issues with her siblings, because the 11th house is the house of siblings, right? And then we get Saturn there causing issues with the siblings. So I went into some research. Audrey Hepburn, issues with siblings. Guys, this is my whole life as an astrologer, is research. Thank God I have a good 8th house. So it says that there was issues with her siblings. She had like step siblings. And then there was this sibling rivalry over her estate. So yeah, she had issues with siblings. I saw that Saturn in the 11th and I was like, what was going on with the siblings? Her brothers were in a dispute over her handwritten will. And then there was also some issues with her half-brothers earlier on in her life as well. That's Saturn in the 11th. Saturn can cause issues with siblings, best believe it. We see the 3 malefics going on to the ascendant. Was she still famous? Was she still successful? Yes, because she has such a strong 3rd house, which we'll get into, right? Which is why I want to emphasize the importance of a strong 3rd house, because even though we get all this malefic influence onto the ascendant, which is giving a more difficult life experience, issues in her life, her confidence, and her ability to feel good about herself, and she also had a tumultuous upbringing and early childhood. Then we get that powerhouse in the 3rd house, which is making her really strong in her ability, her drive, and her willpower to overcome all the craziness that's going on for the 1st house, okay? And then also that's giving her all of her artistic talent and energy in that 3rd house as well. So this is why it's important to understand the truth of astrology, which is that things are mixed. Things are always good and bad. There's some good, there's some bad, right? I find a lot of astrology, at least like modern Western astrology, tries to put things into these like boxes and have it be so grandiose in statements of, oh, it's all this, it's all this. That's not real astrology. Real astrology is taking your time to analyze all the aspects onto houses, there's going to be some good, there's going to be some bad, and that's going to give us a truthful perspective of someone's life story. We can see from those 3 malefics onto the first house, there were issues with her confidence, her self-worth, and that was a constant struggle. She was also very shy, withdrawn, introspective. She called herself one of the most shy people in the world. That's going to be Saturn onto the ascendant. That's going to be Mars aspecting Saturn on the ascendant. That's going to be Ketu onto the ascendant. That's 3 malefic energies going into the first house, and especially that Ketu. Because Ketu is withdrawn, it's like a void energy when it's in the first house or aspecting. Someone, they're more shy, they're more introspective. It's also a very spiritual aspect as well. Great for spirituality. She was very intuitive, very sensitive. All right, so now let us hop over to her Venus placement, and then we'll get to the powerhouse of the third house. It's so strong. Okay, so Venus is exalted in Pisces. All right, so this is a really, really strong Venus. Have you guys seen a theme of how many of the artists' charts we're analyzing happen to have Venus exalted in Pisces? That's because Venus is the karaka, or the indication of creativity in the arts. So if someone is going to be an artist, it's probably going to be helpful if they have an exalted Venus. It's going to help them out in the arts. Venus is here in the second house, 29 degrees. That's a late degree. This is assuming that the birth time is as accurate as it says online, because if it wasn't, then Venus would go into the third house, which would actually be really powerful as well, because then we would get so much benefic influence in the third. So we're still getting a lot of strength for the arts. Venus in the second is beauty, creativity, fashion. She was also a fashion icon with exalted Venus. It's in the second house. Second house is the voice, the speech. She was singing and always using her voice in her, work as well too. Like, for example, Breakfast at Tiffany's, she was, singing that song, Moon River. She was always using her voice, which is Venus, the karaka for the arts, expression, beauty. In the second house, the house of the voice. Venus exalted in the second is also going to do some favors for the financial security, financial abundance, best believe it. Okay, they say that Venus in the second house is a placement that gives a beautiful face, because the second house is also the face. Venus is beautifying that second house, and she was one of the most beautiful actresses of that time period, best believe it, with exalted Venus in the second. Even though we get that Ketu Saturn onto the ascendant, and she didn't feel that way, right? So that's the beauty of astrology. We see both things, and both things were true. Strong Venus, karaka for the arts, creativity, beauty, fashion, is in the second house, gives a beautiful face, gives a beautiful voice. She also had a really nice speaking voice. And that's that second house. That's also money, that's also financial security. I don't know exactly how much money she was making back then, but let's just assume it was a good amount. This is really interesting. See how Venus is retrograde in her second, but it's exalted. If a planet is retrograde, it starts picking up more as someone gets into their late 20s, going into their 30s. So it says Audrey Hepburn's life experienced periods of great financial hardship and success. While she ultimately achieved financial stability and recognition, her early life was marked by poverty and hardship during World War II. However, her later career as a movie star and humanitarian brought her wealth and international reputation. Okay. So what's interesting about that is the Venus in the second is retrograde, so we would predict that money would come to her later on in life as she's getting older, because it is retrograde, and a retrograde planet starts developing more as someone gets older. She had some financial struggles early on, but then she acquired great wealth as she was becoming a movie star, right? That's Venus exalted but retrograde. Now, let's hop over to her third house, because this is so powerful. This is a great example. Third house of Aries. This is astrology. This is how we analyze houses. This is really important. When we're going to a house, we want to know if a planet is exalted, is it in its home sign, or is it debilitated? So The sun likes to be in either Leo or Aries, okay? So now we get a sun in its own sign where it likes to be, right? This is a powerful sun. Now we also get the sun sitting next to Jupiter. Jupiter is a great benefic. We get the sun in its own home sign of Aries, and then we get a benefic sitting in a 7-degree orb of conjunction next to it. Now we look at the next energy, which is Rahu. Rahu is an energy of materialistic desire. It's where our soul is trying to go, where it's trying to get to. It's the obsession. It's that feeling of like, oh my God, I need to go towards that, right? That's Rahu. So sun in its own sign conjunct the great benefic Jupiter, expanding that strong sun. Then we get Rahu. Rahu is materialistic desires, the energy of the physical plane of existence. It's what our soul is yearning to go towards. When Rahu is next to a strong sun and next to Jupiter, a great benefic, it's just going to heighten all that interest in that house. It's just going to heighten it. Okay? That would be a really powerful third house because of the sun being in a sign it likes to be in, and then the third house is already a house that is connecting to the arts, creativity. All of that energy is really heightened because we get Jupiter, benefic, sun in its own sign of Aries, and then Rahu sitting next to these two energies, heightening everything, heightening all of the ability for this house to really perform well. Sun is the ability to be seen. Jupiter is expanding. Jupiter is the energy of, expansion. Rahu is the energy of growth. It's expanding as well too. So Jupiter, Rahu together is really expanding, really expansive. And then it's with that strong sun in the third house. So this is a powerful third house, which means that she has the ability to go towards art, creativity, dance, music, expression. All of that energy is activated. And Rahu in the third house in itself is going to give interest towards that third house because Rahu is what we're trying to get to. It's where we're trying to go in this lifetime. Planets that sit near Rahu are also going to perform well because Rahu's already where we're trying to go, right? It's already there. So that's a really strong third house. Strong Venus, Karaka for the arts, then a strong sun in a sign it likes to be, conjunct a benefic Jupiter, conjunct Rahu, our soul desire. Really powerful third house right here. Okay. So because Rahu's in the third, it's also opposing Ketu in the ninth, which Ketu is like a void of the chart. Ketu is something that's disconnected, something that we are never getting enough of. It's in the ninth house of the father. And then we get Mars hitting that ninth house. So we get Mars here in the sixth, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we have Ketu, already this void, disconnected energy in the ninth house of the father. Then Mars is hitting it in Libra, which is opposite of the sign that Mars actually wants to be in. So Mars wants to be in Aries. It's aspecting Libra, which is opposite. So then we get Mars onto the ninth house of the father. The ninth house of Libra is retrograde. So the ruler of the ninth, the ruler of the father, is retrograde. I was looking at this chart and I was like, her father either left the family when they were young or he was distant, traveling, something of that nature. So then I do my research. Audrey's father left the family and her mother struggled financially because of it. Ketu in the ninth is a disconnection and a void. The ninth house is the house of the father. It's the father's gone and he left. Ketu is the void, it's disconnection, it's in the house of the father, and then it's hit by Mars, another malefic. So, because the ninth house lord is retrograde, we could also intuit that maybe Audrey and her father reconnected later on in life, because remember, a retrograde planet gets better as time goes on. So, let's see. Father, reconnection, reconciliation. Her father abandoned her and her mother before World War II. They were reunited 25 years later. She later stated their relationship never became close. Ketu. Oh, guys, I can't even... Vedic astrology gives me this crazy feeling sometimes. Didn't I just say Ketu is like a void? It's something that's never enough. It says they never became close and her father was emotionally detached. So K2's detachment, quite literally. Yes, they reconnected because the 9th lord is retrograde, which means that it's something that can come back later on in life. However, because K2 is there and it's hit by Mars, the relationship was always a struggle. It was always a void. K2 is like a constant void that we're trying to fill, and we never quite get there. It's in the 9th house of the father, and then it's hit by Mars. And that 9th house lord is retrograde, which means that can come to someone later on in life, but K2 is still there in that 9th, so I wouldn't bet any money that their relationship was ever going to get to a better place. So that's all of that with the void in the house of the father. In Western astrology, they take the father house as the 10th house, and here's the thing. If you're doing Vedic astrology, you can kind of take both and try to find some common ground. So you can analyze the 9th house and analyze the 10th house and see if you're getting a common result. So Mars onto the 9th, K2 in the 9th. Let's see what comes up with the 10th house. So the 10th house is Scorpio, ruled by Mars. 10th house lord is in the 6th house with the Mars debilitated in Cancer. So then we get this second energy of if we want to take the 10th as the father, we're still getting issues with the 10th house lord in the 6th house, the Justana house, and Mars debilitated in Cancer. Okay, so that's all the issues that she had with the father. That was the void, that was the disconnection. Then they had the reconnection with 9th house lord retrograde, but it still was never whole or complete because K2 is still sitting there in the 9th house and it's hit by Mars. Now, what I also want to look to as well is her Atmakarika, because you'll find a lot of artists also have a Venus Atmakarika, which is that highest degree planet. So if this is an accurate birth time, which it says that it's AA level accuracy, that would mean that her Atmakarika is Venus exalted. Really, really strong Venus, great for the arts, beauty, fashion, creativity, all the themes of her entire life story and experience. Now, this is also really interesting. Audrey has Mars debilitated in the 6th house. I was wondering if she had health issues that she overcame, because remember that malefics actually do well in the Upachaya houses, so we want to see malefics in the Upachaya houses because they get better with time. So, let's see. Audrey Hepburn, health issues that she overcame. Audrey Hepburn faced significant health challenges, including malnutrition. All right. So, malnutrition, stunted growth, impacting her health. Mars debilitated in the 6th is not great, right? Because Mars is already malefic and then it's in a debilitated sign and it's in the 6th house of health. She definitely had a lot of health issues, but she lived to be pretty old. Let's see, how old? By the way, if you want to be an astrologer, you have to constantly be researching. That's what it is more than anything. Okay. So she was 63. Yeah, that's pretty young, actually. Mars in the 6th was causing health issues. She overcame the health issues that she had when she was much younger, but still wasn't great for her health because Mars is a malefic, it's debilitated, it's in the 6th house, it's an Upachaya house, so she overcame some of the health struggles, but it's still not a great energy. Because it's Mars in the 6th, it's debilitated, so it is causing health issues, unfortunately. But this is interesting because Mars is debilitated in the 6th, it's opposing its own sign in the 12th, putting energy onto the 12th house of film, photography, and television. I believe in her D9 Navamsha. I think her 10th house lord is in the 12th house. Let's see, because that would be a career in film and photography and television. Let's see. On the D9 Navamsha, her 10th house lord is in the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of television, film, and photography. We see that in the D9. Let's also pull up her D10, see what's going on there. There's no planets in her 10th house in her D10, but let's see the ruler. Yeah, there's not too much information in her D10 chart, but we do see that 10th lord in the 12th and the D9, which would be film, photography, television career, which is interesting as well too. The main thing that I really wanted to focus on in Audrey's chart was that really powerful 3rd house, because not only is that giving talent in performing, quite literally, dancing, singing, expression, creativity, but also the 3rd house is that house of being able to have energy, drive, willpower is the 3rd house. So even though she has all these malefics onto her 1st, which caused a lot of issues in her life experience. She had confidence issues, she had a really rough childhood, Ketu in the 9th house, hit by Mars, her father was gone, he was distant. All of that sort of malefic influence. She also was so talented with the arts and had so much energy that she was able to overcome all of that other stuff. And then you never want to forget about that exalted Venus. So the strongest planets in her chart is going to be Venus and the Sun. So Venus is the arts and the Sun is the ability to be seen and to have some sort of energy within the spotlight, right? If we think about a strong Sun next to Jupiter, the great benefic, within a 7-degree orb of conjunction, and then we get Rahu, where Rahu is heightening everything. All right, so a really powerful 3rd house. All right, so this is really how we do chart analysis in Vedic astrology. Okay, it's not about, the Sun sits in the 3rd house. That doesn't matter. Like, that's one aspect of it, but is the Sun in Aries where it loves to be, or is the Sun in Libra where it hates to be, right? That's going to be a whole different story about that house. The ascendant is Aquarius. That doesn't mean anything until we look at the aspects of Mars onto the 1st, Saturn onto the 1st. If we miss that information, we're really missing someone's whole entire life story. It's really important to analyze all of the aspects onto houses. All right, so really powerful 3rd house, really powerful Venus. It's clear that she was meant to be an artist and a performer. Remember, the 3rd house is the arts, and then the 5th house is also the arts, but when someone is really performative, that's going to be more so seen in that 3rd house of energy. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson in chart analysis through Audrey's chart, who I just love her so much. She was just so iconic and the best energy. I feel like most people had some sort of love for her, right? Really iconic. And she also was very much into helping the world and giving back in a positive way as well. That moon on the ascendant gives her an energy of compassion, sensitivity towards the world around her as well. Best believe it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about Audrey and this chart analysis. Do you have any similar aspects in your charts? Do you have a strong 3rd house? Do you have a weaker 3rd house? The 3rd house is our energy and our ability to get things done, as well as performing, acting, and creativity. All right, sending all the love, sending the best vibes, and we will talk soon. Bye, guys.